time to strap in and get ready.
The leaders in NRL Supercoach are incoming. Bringing you the ultimate insight to help you win your leagues and climb up the rankings. You're now listening to the Insight NRL Show with your hosts, Braino Mattrix and Whisperer.
Yes, g'day guys, welcome back to the Insight NRL Show. It's TLT, it's here again for round 20. We're through the major buys and we're up to the last mini buy, so plenty to talk about tonight. The show is brought to you by the Standard Squeeze and Ryan from Astute Newstead, as always, and I'm the Supercoach Brain. And joining me, as always, is the Supercoach Mattrix to talk trades, captains, and tons more. Mate, how are you going today? You've normally got a story for me to start things off, so what's good?
Well, not much really. Basketball's back on. As per usual, I reckon somebody in our team slept with the wife of whoever organises the basketball here in our local league because we have a 9 o'clock game for about the 5th of 6 weeks. Just so you know, there is a 6 o'clock game, a 7 o'clock game, a 8 o'clock game even. But as per usual, we are playing the 9 o'clock game. But not too much else is going on. I know that you know about how to power move somebody in the KFC drive-through and make people feel shit for giving people shitty food.
Yeah, I was on the phone to you and you found out what was for dinner. And we won't throw too much shade at your wife, but it wasn't something you wanted to eat.
Lentil bolognese.
So you thought, fuck it, I'm going through the KFC drive-through. And what'd you order? A double. What did you order? Tell us what you ordered.
Well, look, it was just a double crunch burger. But if ever you want to make people feel shit in the KFC drive-thru, you're like, double crunch burger, double zinger stacker, upsized, and just a water, thanks. I just like this body is a temple.
That's disgusting, honestly. Like, if you're going to go to KFC, you send it. Yeah, it's like that GIF. Just going to send it with the guy with the fucking. He's just about to ride the thing down the hill. Like. You can't. You go to. Let us know in the chat. Am I wrong? Can you go to KFC and buy a water? Can you go to Macca's and get a water? It's it goes against everything I believe in. So
I just want to make everyone else feel bad about me for being fatties as I'm sitting there eating my double zinger crunch burger and sipping on a bit of H2O.
Yeah, Bobby Boucher for Mattrix here today. So, guys, we're live as we always are. Shit chat to kick things off. But what we do, we have plenty of Supercoach chat coming your way as well. If you haven't yet, please hit subscribe. We would appreciate that. We're pretty close to 2,800 subs now. So if you can get us there in the next few days, that would be lovely. And if you like the content, hit that like button. Follow us and leave us a review if you're listening to us on audio. Talk us through last week, mate. After updates, how'd things look?
Yeah, pretty good. 963. So I only updated about 6 or 7. Got me some green arrows. So I'm into 5,486. Just a little green, up 380 spots. Look, I'm not in the best stead this week, especially with some of the guys that got named. I really needed everything to go my way. I kind of tiptoed the line, I suppose, through the bye period just to have enough some weeks, getting kicked in the nuts some weeks just with some laid outs. But all in all, I made it through the bye period in about the same spot I was at the start of the bye period. So, not too bad all in and around me.
Just a decent little recovery there because you slid a little bit and you've managed to catch back up. So solid little effort at the back end of the buyers. I think I'm up on the buyers. I think I was like fucking 10, 12, 15,000 for something at the start of the buyers. So I managed to maximize those. So I feel pretty good about that. I have slid and had red arrows 3 weeks in a row. So that's not ideal, but I haven't dropped too far. I think I've dropped maybe 1,000 overall in the last 3 weeks. So it could be worse. But last week was one of those weeks where I knew I was going to go backwards. I didn't make a lot of purchases. I kind of held strong for the most part on the majority of my team, knowing that I was going to attack this round. I had 650K in the bank. ready to make 2 real big upgrades this week, and I just need to decide who they are. So we'll talk through them a little bit later in the pod as well. And it's good to see that I am being vindicated here. Primary source, he works at KFC and he sees blokes buy the whole store and ask for a water to feel healthy. Shit, rubbish play. And then Ricky McKay going to KFC for a water is like going to the brothel for a cuddle. And I couldn't agree more.
I just like cuddling.
That's fair. Yeah, that's fair. Mate, there's a bit to talk about. We're changing things up a little bit, though, for the run home, for the pod. For those of you loyal watchers and listeners that have listened to us all season, you'd know that we do buy, hold, sell and a few other things. But to shorten things up for the run home so we don't drag these pods to 2 hours for you guys and bore you to death, we're going to be summarising a little bit quicker the teams and the changes of the teams, and we're going to keep things pretty Supercoach relevant for the most part. And we're going to introduce a bit of Bundy mixer chat coming home as well. That's going to be fun. We'll talk about that. We're going to, instead of doing buy, hold, sell, we'll do trade trends. So we're just going to look at the top 10 to 15 most bought and sold and have a chat through those because they're pretty much going to be the most relevant. We were going through buy, hold, sell, and we could have had 10 to 15 players on the buy list this week, Matty. So it starts to become a little bit hard with that format.
Yeah, and it definitely does this week because, of course, all the best players are playing Origin. All the, I suppose native Australian players are playing Origin at the moment. So, yeah, this is naturally the week that you want to bring them in if they make them through tomorrow night unscathed. So, yeah, I think that this is better for this format. But, yeah, just let us know in the chat whether you like what we're doing, whether you like us to go back the normal way. It is the final third, I suppose, of the year. So, yeah, we might spice things up, try some new things and see how it works because we're here to stay. We'll be here next year as well. So.
Absolutely. And obviously Josh will be jumping in and out. He's pretty busy with work commitments interstate at the moment. So, we'll get him when he's around, and when he's home, you'll see Josh, the Supercoach Whisperer, back on the pod. We'll also actually do a pod watch segment, which is actually probably my favorite for the run home because this is where it gets fun, right? You get to look at pods. We get to go and look at players that aren't owned and see if we can get up the ranks a little bit and get onto some little hidden gems that people aren't looking at. So we're going to both present our pod of the week, and we're going to track the performance of every single one of these pods for the run home and see who's picked the best pods basically at the end of the season. So that should be fun and something to track. And we'd love to know what your pods of the week are as well. So drop them in the comments and we'll give them a shout out throughout the show. But to kick things off, mate, let's get into the injuries for round 20. Only one HIA, Alex Seyfarth, will miss this week with the 11-day mandatory stand down for the West Tigers. But moving into the injuries for the week, Jai Arrow, he's gone under the knife and his season's over, unfortunately. He's been holding that rotator cuff injury for what would probably feel like nearly the whole season, Matty. And now he's finally getting a break, season over. Rabbitohs season maybe nearly over as well. So kind of makes sense.
Yeah. Look, it's a good time for Jai Arrow to start preparing for next year. I'm not sure how far the Bunnies are going. I have expressed my concern, even though that they say Latrell will be back in 3 weeks, whether he just gets the surgery done and we don't see him, which is why I was so excited about guys like Jai Gray and that. But yeah, look, now's perfect timing for Jai Arrow to duck off into the abyss. See you in 2025.
Pretty much. Anybody benefit from that for the Rabbitohs? Because we were talking and, it looks like at the moment there hasn't been too much change or no one really screaming out at us.
Maybe like a Tallis Duncan or somebody like that might see some good minutes there.
Yeah, maybe. We'll kind of touch on that, I guess, a little bit more when we talk about the teams. Ewan Aitken, pec rupture. Unfortunately, his season is over. It looks like about 12 weeks. So even if the Dolphins did make the grand final, which is definitely not happening, then he still wouldn't be back for the season. So we'll see Ewan Aitken at the start of next year. Unfortunate for those of you that had him because he was an awesome pod for the run home, I think. So, yeah, a bit of a shame you have to pivot there, but there will be a few options for you to downgrade too. So no need to worry. Cody Nikorima as well for the Dolphins. He's had a sternum injury. I didn't check. Has he been named this week?
Who's that?
Cody Nikorima. Yeah, he's been named at 5'8".
Yeah, he's been named. Yep, he'll be right.
So, so he's carrying a sternum injury. Obviously, it's a pain management thing for the most part from what we've seen. So, it looks like he's all good. Jesse Colquhoun, unfortunately, ACL done for the year for the Sharks, which is a shame because he just came back from a really bad foot fracture as well. that he had up in the preseason. So he hasn't had much luck, Jesse Colquhoun, this year. But hopefully we see him back next year. The big talking point, Api Koroisau with a calf injury. Now, the news, Matty, has come out that it's looking like 1 to 3 weeks, and there's only a chance he probably misses a fortnight. We'll talk a little bit more around Api and what to do with Api a little bit later, but he's in your team. What was your initial reaction when you saw the news?
Yeah, I'm not happy.
Didn't take you long. Good. Luke Keary, pubic bone stress. Poor bloke, must be getting some. Good luck to him.
Yeah.
So he got obviously taken out of the New South Wales squad as the backup for Mitchell Moses. And yeah, it looks like he's okay though, and he won't miss any club footy for the Roosters. So that is a good result for the Roosters there. And Max King as well, fractured wrist, looks like undergone surgery today, I think it was, or yesterday. So he's going to miss up to 8 weeks, which is pretty much early finals potentially, depending on how deep the Bulldogs go into the finals. You just never know whether we see Max King back at the end of the year, but he could be back for semis really on that timeline. So, it's interesting to see who benefits from this, because we see Josh Curran being named at prop for the Bulldogs this week. We kind of called it a little bit last week on when the news came out about Max King, and I was trying to weigh up whether I hold Curran or hold Kai Pearce-Paul, and I just needed the number last week. So unfortunately, I traded Curran, and who knows? He could be, could be someone that we definitely hold. You wouldn't buy him, but you definitely hold him if you've got him now for sure. But you know what? The good thing is there's not really many injuries this week. So, hopefully for the most part, we've got.
That's because there wasn't very many games.
Yeah, feels like it, doesn't it? And at the end of the day, there's a few players coming back from injury as well. So we'll be talking about them as options and trade ins and outs throughout the next hour or so. But, mate, let's get into the weekly preview and kick things off. Guys, the weekly preview, as always, every week is brought to you by Ryan from Astute Newstead. If your home loan rates are above 6.2%, you want to buy your first home, you want to refinance, renovate, or maybe just save some cash like the rest of us, then you can reach out to Ryan from Astute Newstead for an obligation and a cost-free inquiry. All you need to do is go into the description below. You'll see his link there, his link tree. Hit him up, let him know we sent you, and he will look after you. It won't cost you a thing. Mate, weather this week. We probably should talk about the weather before we kick into the game.
And now here's Ollie Williams with the weather forecast. Ollie?
It's gonna rain.
Thanks, Ollie.
I'll let you take it away, mate. I know weather's your favourite thing.
Yeah, look, I won't be doing any rain dances this week because on Friday there's 0 to 1 millimeters in Canberra. On Saturday there is no rain in Gosford, no rain in Newcastle, and just 0 to 3 millimeters in Melbourne, probably making it really fucking cold for those going to the game. On Sunday there is no rain in Penrith, Manly, or Townsville. This one was an easy one. Might be a bit fresh. I know there's a bit of a cold snap up here, but yeah, definitely no rain.
It is very, very cold. A very cold snap in Sydney at the moment. I think I'm waking up to like 3 degrees in the morning and frost on my fucking windows and stuff. So, it's not fun, but that's the middle of winter for you. So, mate, we've got Para and the Sharks and the Dragons on the bye. So there are some relevant players that are missing in teams this week. And I know that a lot of us have been probably talking about trying to scrape together 17 this week. How are you looking?
I would have had 17. After my couple of trades, if everybody got named and went through unscathed. But yeah, after Origin, there's some guys getting rested already. So
yeah, it's tricky, isn't it? Britton Nickero, very popular buy a couple of weeks ago. He'll miss this week. Ronnie Mulatalo, if you follow the pod, you're a Ronnie Mulatalo owner, that's for sure. So and Kaeliro, these popular guys are missing. Dylan Brown, for those of you that have him, he's missing. And Brendan Hands, the savior of everybody who owns Harry Grant, is also missing this week. So there'll be plenty of stress and sweat on Harry Grant.
My hooker too, Joey Lussick, is actually out this week as well. Thanks for the mention.
Yeah, what happened to him? Is he all right?
Yeah, I think he's playing. He's actually playing this week. Brendan Hands isn't, but he's playing in reserve grade. So
yeah, good. I need Brendan Hands bad this week because there's every chance I might cop an AE. I'm not willing to trade Harry Grant, but it's tricky. But mate, with the West Tigers, obviously Api Koroisau is the big talking point. He's been replaced by Talon De Silva, but he is in the reserves. He's in the 24 jersey or 23 jersey or something, which Benji is just playing absolute ducks and drakes with this, isn't he? Surely we don't see him this week.
I don't know. Like, Physio did a really good explanation of it, but basically said that he might just miss a week. I would say that he will play if ready. We saw AJ Brimson get named in the reserves last week and get moved into the team. So it's definitely an option. He wouldn't have just done it for fun, but it makes me think a little bit closer. So I was definitely trading out Appy. I was all in. We were going to do a segment called Hookers with Mattrix, and I was going to do a deep dive into all the different hookers I could have had in my travels. But look, I'm actually thinking just holding Appy at this stage because I'd only be a week. It's an AE. It's an AE nightmare. Probably actually you don't cop an AE if you don't field 17. So yeah, save a trade.
At the moment with Appy, if Appy was out, you're copping 16 this week.
Well, I probably am now. I was thinking Appy to Harry Grant because that's as sideways as they get. I was looking at your Reed Marnies. I was looking at spending up for Damien Cooks. I was looking at Connor Watson's, but yeah, I think now as I sit here with 8 trades in round 20? Yeah, in round 20, yeah, Appy could be a hold. I'm not saying it's for everyone. If I had 12 trades, I'd be doing it, but I think I'm just holding Appy.
Well, at least the good thing is you get a free VC loop if you're short. So you don't have an AE nightmare. You get a free loop, which could be nice, So it means maybe the VC loop threshold drops for you a little bit to, instead of looking for 120, 130 with that AE, you could probably just take like a 90 to 100 really.
Yeah.
So we'll talk VC and C at the end of the show. Otherwise, not really much going on for the Tigers and the Rabbitohs. So we're gonna move past that. But what are people doing with Appy? I'd probably recommend people hold personally. It's just not long enough. It's just not long enough to waste a trade on Appy to someone, anybody really. Like, if you want to go Appy to Harry Grant, I understand it, but Harry Grant's also under an injury cloud. Like, this sternum injury hasn't gone away, and depending on how Wednesday night goes, everything that we talk about tonight regarding Appy and regarding Harry Grant could be completely different on Thursday morning when we hear news from Craig Bellamy saying that they're going to rest Harry Grant this week. And, Bronson Garlick's out for the Storm as well, which is tricky because then they don't really have a natural hooker to fall back on at Melbourne. So maybe they will. That's what probably makes me feel a little bit better about Harry this week, is that maybe he's more of a chance of playing because they're just that depleted at hooker. They've got no one there.
Yeah, I think Harry will play if he makes it through this week. Through tomorrow. So
let's hope. Yeah. He's obviously been cleared to play in Origin tomorrow night, so that's positive for Queensland. Mate, the next one, we've got the big talking point, I guess, is no Fletcher Sharp for the Knights, which is great news. And obviously for Kalen Ponga, we expected him to come in, but just not seeing Fletcher Sharp in the 14 jersey is actually probably better for owners than anything, because it allows people to actually sit on Fletcher Sharp for a week and reassess the best option. If you don't like Turbo and you don't like Reece Walsh and you're not a fan of him because Reynolds is coming back early, Kalen Ponga's not a buy at this point in time. I think you've got to wait a couple of weeks on Kalen Ponga just with the draw and the break even. So it creates a bit of an opportunity for you to hold Fletcher Sharp. What are your thoughts on that? If you had Fletcher Sharp in your team, would you be looking to just maximize and get the cash and get up to a premium hooker, or would you just sit on that and wait for Kalen Ponga?
Yeah, I think that I might wait for Kalen Ponga. It also allows an extra look as to how Reece Walsh looks after Origin and Turbo, like, despite looking great last week, as somebody that's brought Nico in one week and he hurt himself the next week. If you've got the numbers and you really want Ponga, I think you could probably wait a week on Fletcher because you're going to get. Are you going to get another really nice price rise as well out of Fletcher, or does that all drop out because of the he's got to break even at 55, so it's not about cash. I just think that he's a number the following week. It depends. If you want Ponga, get him. If you really want Reece Walsh or Turbo, you're going to move Fletcher Sharp on. So
I think the downside with Ponga is just the draw, right? So the Knights, who have they got this week? I don't usually have it on my notes. So the Knights are playing the Broncos.
Yeah, they're
right?
playing the Broncos. Yep.
Won't exactly be an easy matchup, especially if all your Origin boys back up, which I expect they would because you guys have plenty to play for. I don't think you can afford to be resting your stars at this point of the season.
Nope.
So
Thanks.
for me, it makes sense that they'll be playing at nearly full strength. Even Adam Reynolds coming back into this team could do wonders for the Broncos for the run home. So, playing the Broncos into the bye in round 21 is also super unappealing. So you're basically picking Ponga at 185 break even or something. There's every chance he could drop 100K, even if he does perform well. And then he's in the bye. And then
he's into the Panthers.
That's right, 100%, which is why I think round 23 is the best kind of time to pick up Ponga. I think he gets through those tough matchups, and then Kalen Ponga, round 24 to 27, has probably the best draw for any fullback in the comp, I think. Looking at, if we bring it up on the screen very quickly, you'll see the Knights have the Panthers, but then they've got the Tigers. They're going to have probably a depleted Sharks with no Nico. Souths have been pretty ordinary defensively. Gold Coast Titans have been probably even worse defensively, and then they finish with the Dolphins. So I don't know whether you can see a better 5-game stretch, I should say, than Kalen Pong is going to have at the back end of the season. With the Knights also have plenty to play for because they're just on the edge of the 8 from memory. So yeah, if you can wait for him to drop a bit of cash, you can get him up much cheaper in round 23, I think. So that's probably the play. But if you want to move Fletcher Sharp on now, who's your pick? Because this is the big question, the $1 million question this week. Are you going Turbo or are you going Walsh?
I am going Turbo with Adam Reynolds looming, I suppose. Whilst we'll lose the goal kicking at some stage, I think that the Broncos will come good with Reno, but we're going to look a little bit different, I suppose. Turbo just looked so good last week. The draw is phenomenal for Manly. They're playing the Titans this week, so I know we're not talking captains yet, but he's probably also the best captain this week, so that's why I'm leaning on him. But yeah, I think Turbo hands down over all of those guys, but I can't overlook round 23 onwards for Ponga.
Yeah, tough. And if you've got enough
discount,
trades, at a massive discount. If you have enough trades, the play could be you go Turbo for 2-3 weeks. He's got the Titans this week, which is probably the best matchup of the week. And then he's got a couple of nice matchups coming up as well. Manly have a really nice run home. And then you pivot to Ponga in round 23. You just go Turbo to Ponga. Turbo has a bye in round 22, which just isn't the ideal point. So maybe if you can go even Reece Walsh with Reynolds back, I understand he doesn't have the goal kicking, but I'd probably, if you have 2 trades to use in that position, I'd go Walsh to Ponga. You do Walsh for the next 3 weeks and then Ponga from round 23 home. But if you don't have the trades, I'd probably urge you to go with Turbo. I think that the best overall draw, if you can only make one trade in that position, is probably Manly consistently for the rest of the year. So it's a bit of a tricky situation. So if you've got double trades, you can use that link trade and skip Turbo. But if you only have one, I'd probably go with Turbo. Now, with the Broncos, mate, all the Origin players have been named on the extended bench. Is this a tip out of Todd Payton's little coaching handbook there to name all of your players on the extended? Because he never used to do this, Kevy.
Yeah, he's just Kevy usually rests them, to be honest. But look, I'm presuming he's just going to see how everybody goes, makes it through unscathed. And if they're right, and I'm presuming the boys will want to play, especially after the last 5 or 6 weeks, they'll play.
Yeah, I'd be very surprised if we don't see all of them line up. You're going to need Payne Haas. Yeah, and obviously this is injury dependent, of course, but you're going to need all troops on deck to try and make your run to the finals. I've seen some people starting to write you off. I would go out on a limb and say that you probably win the majority of your games on the run home. Just looking at your team and looking at the players you're getting back, and Reynolds just being such a big part of this squad, I wouldn't be surprised at all if you guys won the majority and ended up sliding into 7th or 8th. So
Reynolds trained today.
Yeah, I saw that. He's got to get through 2 more sessions this week. So if he gets through both of those unscathed, there's every chance he could line up this weekend, which is huge for the Broncos. And also probably will then determine what we do with Walsh too, because I understand your point regarding him not having the goal kicking and having less kicks in play. But again, he's still not a bad option. I mean, we know he scores all of his points in 10, 15 minutes. So yeah, it's more a matter of, do we want to spend up for Walsh, which I mean, maybe he's a little bit too volatile for me, but maybe he's going to get better ball with Reno in the team. That's probably the case.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think the Broncos will all look good, and you're basically getting every Bronco at a discount, even your Payne Hasses and blokes like that. So,
Yep, 100%. Harry Grant, we talked about him. He's named a backup for the Storm, but if you have a Grant and a Hands, do you cop an AE if Harry doesn't play, or are you looking to trade Harry out?
I think that you still hold through. The same thing as Appy. You just cop an AE. I see you've got a typo there with Hands and not Lussick. So, yeah.
I do. Sorry. I forgot about
This
you.
This is the number one. This is the number one Joey Lussick podcast in Australia. Can I add?
Mm-hmm. Oh, well, it'd have to be. I don't think anyone else. I think Joey Lussick's parents talk about him at the dinner table as much as we do.
Yeah, they're Freddie this, Freddie that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Freddie getting all the fame. I'm going to cop an AE. I'm not trading Harry Grant. I think Harry Grant, in terms of price, has bottomed out as far as he's going to bottom out. I think there's every chance this sternum injury kind of eases up in the next fortnight. And Harry Grant is actually a pod right now at sub 30% ownership in the top 1% of teams. So the fact that you've been able to get, let's not forget, this guy's still the best hooker in the NRL. There's no doubt about it. So when he gets good and finds some form for the run home, yes, he might rest in round 27, which you need to have a contingency plan for. But I think he could average upwards of 100. I don't know if there's any other hooker in the game that can average upwards of 100 at the moment for the run home. And Storm have a very nice draw too. So one thing to keep in mind. Good news for the Roosters and good news for Supercoaches that held Terrell May. Sorry, this one's a little bit close to your heart. He's been named to start for Jared Warrior-Hargraves, who's going to be suspended for a month. So big ups, wheels up, as Josh would say, for Terrell May. You traded him out, which I'm assuming you probably regret a little bit now.
Yeah, I do, but I didn't know Jared Warrior-Hargraves. I probably should have, but I didn't know that he was going to get, pushed to the side for 3 weeks. It made the play at the time. I had too many Roosters heading into this week. Last week I would have been in absolute shambles, and I probably wouldn't have got green arrows last week. But yeah, sort of a bit bittersweet there.
What are your thoughts on the bench? Because I'm just looking at like minutes and rotation for Terrell May. I think there's probably close to 50 minutes for him again this week. Like you look, Lindsay Collins is coming off Origin as well, and he's been named to start as well. And I would probably back Terrell May to get more minutes than Lindsay Collins post Origin backing up. Yeah. This game's at 7:35 on Saturday night. So they've had 3 days to recover from Origin, the Origin boys. But we've got Gus Crichton. He's been named as well, and we thought he was going to rest. They've also got Spencer Leniu on the bench as well. So the fact that they don't have a 4-forward bench is promising with Sandon Smith, obviously in the 14 jersey. So that's probably giving us more promise there. Hopefully 50 minutes for Terrell May. Definitely a hold. I would not be bothering trading him to anybody until we see a dip in minutes or him lose that starting spot. And even if he does lose the starting spot, we've talked about it all year, right? You don't have to be starting to actually be Supercoach relevant. You can be very impactful off the bench, as Josh Curran and Terrell May have shown this year.
Just don't get caught with too many Roosters come around 23 as well. If all your money's tied up in the Roosters, you're going to have an absolute stinker. And it's easy to with your Sam Walkers, your Tedescos, your Dom Youngs, I've seen Tupu in some teams, May there, of course, Gus Crichton. There's people sitting there with, who is it, Naf White, Connor Watsons. Yeah, just don't get trapped.
Yep, good point. Now, mate, the big talking point and the guy on the front of the cover for this episode this week, Nathan Cleary, he returns for the Penrith Panthers. Now, the big question becomes, do we wait or do we buy now and take a bit of a punt on him going large against the Dolphins? What are your thoughts here? You've been pretty public on X about your thoughts and the fact that you're probably going to jump on straight away, but talk to me about the thought process behind Cleary.
Look, going a week early, not scared of break evens. I'm sitting there with Nico Hines there, who's not playing this week. Nathan Cleary is. I will be buying him in the situation that I'm in. I'm not 100% sure if you need to, if you've got a couple of good halfbacks, but in the position I'm in, where I've got Nico Hines still sitting there, he won't be playing this year. Nathan Cleary comes in, probably becomes a captain option, makes his team better around him. It is a bit of a lackluster team this week. But yeah, look, and that probably is a little bittersweet for me. But Nathan Cleary, lock him in. I'm going to own him this week. Look, my players get injured when I bring them in, so maybe stay away from him.
Let's hope not. I plan to probably bring in. I'll probably bring in Nathan Cleary as well. I think For those of you that out there that are in the top 1K and you're having a real red hot crack at good rank, I think you probably can wait, to be honest. It probably makes sense. The logical option when you see 185 break even is to just wait, just sit on that. Even if he comes out and scores 80 or 90 points this week, that doesn't overly hurt you. The only way that Nathan Cleary can hurt you is if he scores 150 this week, which I'm hoping he does. And probably the reason why I'm buying him is because he does have that ceiling. And he is playing the Dolphins, who defensively have been quite poor this year. So
they're a good team at the moment. Like, you copped a bit of slack on the net for saying, they're playing the Dolphins this week, and you're saying it as if they're bad. They're bad defensively.
Yeah, that's right. I'm definitely not saying that they're not a good team. I'm just saying that they'll score 30 and concede 28. And for me, like that's all I need to see, because they don't take points off you for conceding tries. In Supercoach. They just give you attacking stats, and Nathan Cleary will be full of them. The good thing is he's playing with Brad Schneider, who definitely won't be taking the ball out of his hands. I'd say Nathan Cleary is going to have the ball in his hands for the majority of the game. The only thing, like you mentioned, is the fact that there is a chance that being that depleted, they just won't have as much go forward as what you would expect them to have. But I still think Nathan Cleary is good enough. 189 break even though, yeah, I understand why you would hold off. But for me, I'm sitting 3,200th. I'm going to have a crack at a bit of a pod play and go early. At the moment, in the top 1% of teams, we've got 12% of the top 1% trading him in at this point in time. And I would imagine that that'd probably take off a little bit closer to Thursday, Friday.
Yep.
So still a pod, definitely. What about Isaac Tungo? A few comments in the chat about Isaac Tungo, which is great. So let's chat about him, because he's been pretty lackluster this year, and we know that he had a couple of decent scores when Cleary was out. The argument there is the fact that he was running at second row as playing in the centres in both of those games that he went large. So any love for Isaac Tungo? Because we've been talking about him for weeks as a guy that we could probably get in when Nathan Cleary comes back. We know the ball's going to go right a lot when Nathan Cleary's back in the team. So surely Tungo gets some ball.
Yeah, I do really like it as a play. You can save a little bit of money off your Kale Heroes and blokes like that, which everybody would have called you crazy if you were saying that. Kale Hero to Tungo nets you 110K. Madness. But, look, I like it as long as Cleary comes out. You could probably wait a week, but again, that's what makes these pod moves, because if he scores 100 this week, everybody can afford him at 450K. But if he scores 100 this week, you're going to have 100 more points. I think I'm 160 points behind you at the moment. So, one or two little plays like that, and I'm right in the hunt. So,
yeah, for sure. Agreed. And that's the point of the season now, where it's like, fuck, we should have made enough coin. We should have enough cash that we don't have to continually look at break evens all the time. Yes, you can get Cleary cheaper. Yes, you can probably get Tungo cheaper, or you might not. Isaac Tungo's at 398K. He's got a break even, if I can find it here, of 63, which is very achievable for Isaac Tungo, considering the ceiling that this guy's got when he gets the ball in his hands. He hasn't got early ball. Nathan Cleary seems to get him that early ball. So I'm pretty excited about watching this. I don't think I'll jump on just yet, but that's the beauty of it. If you go early and you can get 100 from Isaac Tungo, everyone's buying him next week. I can guarantee you.
Yeah,
and you've got one up on everyone else. So I don't mind it. I definitely don't mind that. Talk to me about your friend of the show, Tavita Pangai Jr., because he's starting. He's at prop. Do you pull the trigger now on TPJ for the Finns? You know how I feel.
I hate burning trades in front row forward, but what excited Josh and I when, Tavita was coming back in was the fact of how much this man can offload. He can get attacking stats. He was an absolute beast last week, scored a try, scored 90. Even without a try, that's 60 for a guy you're spending 379K. If you've got some issues, if you've got some blokes, heading into next week like Liam Henrys and blokes like that, I think you could play this guy in a pinch. I'm actually looking at having to play Sam Hughes a little bit with some of the buys down the stretch. If I had a few more trades, I think Sam Hughes to Tavita Pangai Jr. for that upside. There's not too many guys in front row forward well, definitely not for 300K, but there's not too many guys outside of your AFBs and who else do we have there? Maybe your Jackson Fords and those try-scoring front row forwards. There's not too many of those.
Yeah, it's it's an awkward price though for TPJ, like 380K, 379. Like, I don't know where we need to look at guy, especially in the positions that he's in. Like, where are you buying him? You're obviously just going to buy him at front row forward, I would assume, if you're going to get him.
Oh,
right?
yeah, he's not a second rower. Yeah.
So, but like, you don't trade out Sam Hughes, because with the Max King news, hopefully Sam Hughes gets a tiny bump there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what everybody's team looks like, but yeah, you could trade in somebody. Like, I could go Miles Martin to him if I really wanted to.
Yeah, but I mean, what are you gaining from that? An extra player you're never going to play?
Yeah, probably.
So, for me, like, everyone's probably got the 20 players at the moment in their squad that they're comfortable playing every single week, or close to it, or in mind. People want to get Gus and all this to finish off their teams this week and next week. So I don't know whether TPJ fits into people's plans this late. And a bit of shade for TPJ from Wayne Mulligan, calling him making Dave Taylor look fit.
Speaking of people that don't look fit, I know everyone loves a story. So sometimes at basketball, if you're doing a layup and I've bounced off a couple people, I just yell out the coal train, and just to see if anybody gets it. So a little 72 kilo point guard yelling out the coal train. Only true fans get it.
Yeah, only you and Reed Marnie would do that in the game, I reckon. Trey Fuller's in the 17 jersey. I'd probably bail on him now. Like, he's done his job for owners now, and it's time to probably move him on. Really, he's made some good coin too. So time to move him on to a keeper fullback that we mentioned earlier. AJ Brimson in the 18th man jersey again. What's going on here? We know he went off, obviously, for Keeney to come on, but that just looked like a planned sub anyway. But word out of the camp of the Gold Coast Titans has said that he's pulled up a little bit tight in that groin that he's spent some time out for. Any concerns there? If you're a Brimson owner, you just got to hold strong.
Yeah. You brought him in last week. You brought him in for the run home. You definitely have to hold and hope that he gets named the same as he did last week. I wouldn't be too concerned, because he did get named in the 18 jumper last week. There you go again.
Every chance he could come to fullback again, for sure. They do play late in the round, though, so not ideal. What about Jaden Campbell, mate? Is it too late for Jaden Campbell at the moment, or you reckon people can jump on?
He's still got a low break even. If you are a Jaden Campbell truther, I'm probably not. You're probably not going to get him this cheap again this year. So, yeah, look, he looked great last week. I won't be going there, but I wouldn't hate it if you did. I think if you're a Jaden Campbell truther, you got him last week, though.
I agree. But also, minus 30 break even will still entice people to grab him, I reckon. And do you really want to pay that much money? 750K for Jaden Campbell? He's been awesome, don't get me wrong. He has passed all the eye tests. I can't argue with, if you came to me and you said, fuck it, I'm buying him, I'm like, look, I can't really talk you out of it. He's been great.
Yeah.
But it's like, at the expense of who? At that cash? At the expense of a Nathan Cleary, at the expense of a Gus Crichton, at the expense of a Payne Haas, all of these guys that we're planning to get back at the end of Origin, once Origin's out of the way, you're kind of missing out on one of those guys by spending that much money on Jaden Campbell now.
Yeah.
So,
I wouldn't be going there, but hey, look, you're right. You can't talk someone out of going Jaden Campbell. I tried that a week ago.
Yeah, it didn't really work, did it? Not for us. We both faded him and it hurt.
Jai Gray was good. He got 65.
Yeah. I thought he did everything. I thought he was on 130, and I looked at he's on 49. So, he's got to do a fair bit to score. But, still a good buy at the price you got him. All the North Queensland Cowboys Origin players, they're on the extended bench, as Todd Payton does every single week, just to fuck with super coaches. So we don't know what's going to happen with the Cowboys players, with your Vowels and Robsons and those guys backing up, but would naturally assume if they get through unscathed and don't get through too much work, then we should see most of those guys backing up this weekend. And lastly, we talked about who the beneficiary of Max King is going to be with his injury, and Josh Curran has been named at prop. So whilst he will score well, I don't think he's a buy. I think he probably has the same kind of output, if I'm completely honest, as starting. I think he probably plays the same kind of minutes too, to be honest.
I legit thought you were going to say the same sort of output as Tavita Pangai Jr. So,
please.
Yeah, look, probably not a buy, and not. Oh no, they are playing this week. They're just coming out of a buy. But look, if you've got him, he's definitely a hold. Don't buy Josh Curran at this time of the year.
No, not at all. No, too many good front row forwards coming out of Origin now that you're going to want to look at. But the good news is Jacob Preston returns on an edge for the Bulldogs and could be a super pod for the run home. When we look at the Bulldogs draw, the Bulldogs could have one of the best draws or close to it for the run home as well. We'll bring it up on the screen from 21 to 27. This week they play the Cowboys. They've got the Broncos next week. Bit tricky, but then they've got the Raiders, Dragons, Dolphins, Warriors who are down on form, Manly, and then the Cowboys again to finish the competition off. So that is, or the regular season, I should say. So that is a very nice draw. So for guys like Jacob Preston, for your Matt Burtons, and these popular picks, I can't really talk you out of Preston either. It's just, again, you've got to look at getting one of these guys over a Hamoli. You're getting them over a Gus Crichton. You're getting them over these really popular edge players that, for the most part, are really good picks that are tough to antipod.
Yep. No, I'm with you there.
Cool. That brings us to the end of the relevant team news anyway. But, mate, let's move into the squeeze of the week, brought to you by the Standard Squeeze. Guys, if you are sick of breaking glass bottles, going on trips and breaking the bottle of vodka and it goes everywhere and your weekend's ruined, Standard Squeeze have got you covered. They help you drink responsibly, but also conveniently. Their products are also made from food-grade quality plastic as well. So you can head to their website, thestandardsqueeze.com, use the code IFS15, get yourself 15% off on everything in store. Get yourself a 4-in-1, get yourself a combo pack, or get the score, the highest score in the Unlimited League, Matty, which goes to John this week for round 19. He's coach of the Solid Starter with a 1367. Now, fucking listen to this score. He had Trindle, he had Hopewadi, Bostock, Gagai, Garrick, and Mulatalo, who all scored hundreds. And then also VC looped Herbie Farnless 104. 7 players in his 13 scored 100 points.
This is one of the best rounds I've seen.
That's got to be one of the best, especially in a bye round to score 1367. That is monstrous. It's just a shame that John's back in 50K overall. But he had I think he climbed up about 40,000 spots this week. So shout out to John. That is massive. That's probably the biggest week in terms of like perfect picks I've seen, or very close to it. And we've still got Quentin, coach of the Dead Hand Gang. He holds onto the league lead at the moment, and he's in second overall. So fingers crossed he can jump up into first. So, John, you've won yourself a Standard Squeeze combo pack or a 4-in-1, mate. So hit us up on social media, send us an email, or just go to the web store and click contact us, mate, and let us know what you want. Let us know your address or where we're sending it, and we'll get it out to you, mate. Congratulations. Talk to us about the Bundy mixer, Matty, because a little bit of a change of pace, which is nice. It's a bit of a different competition to kind of bring things back to life at the back end of the year.
Yeah, look, I play NRL fantasy as well. I really enjoy watching the women's game when given the chance as well. And this is as advertised, a bit of a mixer. The scoring is the same as in NRL fantasy. So, base stats, there's kicking involved, kick meters count, but you're allowed to pick 3 from the women's game, 3 players from the men's game. You're allowed to pick basically a person at each position. And you run with it. It's short form. There's no salary cap. You change your team every week. You can really look into matchups. It's just something I wanted to throw in, I suppose, for a little bit of fun. Get people watching the women's game as well. And we're going to have some competitions in our own Discord and everything like that.
So, and we're also giving away a Standard Squeeze prize pack to the winner of the league as well that we've created for the Bundy Mixer. So get involved in the Insight Fantasy Sports League. The link is also in the description below. So just go down in the bottom of the video or the audio here that you're listening to and click on the link and it'll take you straight there so you can join the league and create your team. I'm a big kind of fantasy lover as much as Supercoach, and I think it's a really good way to keep you engaged at the back end of the year, because Supercoach, when you run out of trades, it gets a little bit kind of boring and, you disconnect a little bit from it, don't you? So having an unlimited amount of trades, having basically a fresh slate every single week, so you can just target whoever's playing good matchups that week, 3 women, 3 men. It probably gets you involved in the women's game a little bit more as well and gives you something else to watch. So if you love your footy as much as us, get involved in the Bundy Mixer. It's good fun, and maybe you can win a prize pack at the end as well.
Do you have any early thoughts? I'm curious.
I think I'm going to... So making sure you load up on the right positions with the right players is important. So like finding the men in the halfback position, I think, is probably the best approach with your Nathan Clearys and just how many good options that we have at halfback.
Kick meters count. So when you watch the women's game, they just don't kick it as fast. So
yeah, that's right. So kick meters with fantasy sports, you get 1 point for every 15 kick meters in fantasy scoring. So your Nathan Clearys and all of your dominant halfbacks, even Jamal Fogarty was fantastic at the start of the year before he got injured because they're the dominant kicker. They do all the kicking. You know, Matt Burton kicked 660 meters last week. So there's the easiest, probably 30-odd points that you're going to get just in base from a guy like Matt Burton. So you just got to look at the game a little bit differently. But yeah, my halfback, my fullback, and my hooker, I think, are the three positions I'm going to get a male player in. And then I'm going to go middle, edge, and center. So the one thing I would say with the mixer is that center is probably your lowest scoring position. So I'd be picking one of the women there. I think the obvious one is Isabel Kelly. She's very popular. I think she's like 40-odd% owned in the mixer already at center. Yeah. So and one of the best in the women's game. So she's pretty hard to ignore at the moment. What about you? How are you looking at it?
Well, I was sort of looking again, chasing that upside with like a Tiani Penatani there at center. I had the same sort of ideas at halfback there, and I think, did you say you wanted a fullback man as well?
Yeah,
I was more thinking playing a couple middles there, just like when I play fantasy, and it's probably not. You know, we come up the idea to have a bit of a chat about this today. When I'm playing fantasy, you know, those middles seem to score really well. Like your, Cam Murray's, your Payne Haas. I'm sort of thinking Keon Kolomatangi playing in the middle with the edge position. Of course, it starts next week. So yeah, I'll see how the rotation is when Cam Murray comes back into it. But maybe like a Keon Kolomatangi, a Payne Haas in the middle, and then like, you know, Manzelman or Jamie Chapman or somebody like that, give them a run. So
yeah, I like it. There's still a bit over a week left until the Bundy mixer actually starts. We've got exactly 8 days and 23 hours left until things kick off. So you've got a week to get into the comp. At the moment, I've got who have I got? I've got Reed Marnie in my team. I'm not going to give away my whole team. I'll update it next week. At the moment, I've got Reece Walsh, but that'll probably change. I've got Kelly at center, and I've got Nathan Cleary at halfback. So I won't tell you who my middle and my edges are at the moment. But you can wait for next week. But yeah, Jess Surges looks like a pretty good buy at center as well. Probably the next best option from Isabel Kelly, I think.
We'll put it in the Discord for Inside Unlimited members.
Love that. Now, let's dive into the trade trends for this week. Instead of buy, hold, sell, a little bit different. We'll talk through the top 10, maybe even the top 15, depending on how quick we get through it, bought and sold players out of all coaches. Now, you let us know in the comments whether you want us to go through top 1 or top 10% rather than all coaches, because I think it's probably a little bit more relevant. So I would assume that people probably want us to go through top 10% of teams rather than all coaches. So maybe we'll do that. Most bought player this week, Tom Trbojevic. Can't really argue with it, can you?
No, with there being a little bit of a gap, a lot of owners had Fletcher Sharp and everything like that. I can't... Look, I'm kind of thinking about it. I could be talked into getting Turbo this week.
He's currently in my team. And he's I had the cash there for Fletcher Sharp to go up to a Tom Trbojevic. So yeah, he's just a guy I think I'm going to want. 15% of the top 10% of teams are buying Tom Trbojevic this week, and that brings him up to 26.3% ownership. So starting to get out of that pod territory, but still definitely nowhere near out of it yet, which is great. So, hopefully he stays a bit of a pod, but I can't see that happening. Nathan Cleary, the second most owned. Again, risky. 9.7% of the top 10% of teams are buying him this week. Again, we've talked about him enough, so we probably don't need to buy into that again, but a risky play that could take off this week. Now, one that surprises me is Jaden Campbell, Matty. Third most bought. Takes him up to 41% owned in the top 10% of teams. So he's starting to creep up to that halfway or that 50% ownership mark in top teams at the moment.
Yeah, it's actually curious because I forgot to click the filter there. And I thought Tavita Pangai Jr. is the third most bought, but that's for people that basically including everybody, not just the top 10%. So I get that. But yeah, look, Matt Burton, I can get around it. I think this is sort of him bottoming out. If you think about 18 months ago, was it 18 months ago, 14 months ago when we started doing the podcast, everybody wanted Matt Burton and Adam Dewey. And Matt Burton has just really started to come into his own. He knows the Bulldogs team. This is a really good Bulldogs team. Honestly, just 5/8 halfback when it hasn't been as good as we like. I'm actually a bit weirded out that I'm not jumping on Matt Burton this week.
I will give you the red hot tip. I'm buying Matt Burton in fantasy this week. That's a little bit of a left field pod play for me, but I think it's the Bulldogs draw that's making that's really appealing to people. So I can't argue with the Matt Burton purchase, but I just think that people are trading Dylan Brown by the looks of things. We'll talk about most sold soon, but people are trading Dylan Brown to Matt Burton.
Yeah, I don't hate that.
How many?
I don't like that.
How many trades do you have to be making luxury moves like that? Because that just feels like the ultimate luxury trade to me.
Yeah, you don't need the 60K. Dylan Brown on any given week could score as many as Matt Burton. I know that the Eels have been disappointing, but he hasn't been that bad.
No, he's been fine. He scored 50 last week. Like, fuck, if you're upset with the 50, your team must be elite. It must be incredible. So, you're probably in the top 10. Ruben Garrick, 5th most bought. Obvious. Definitely a buy, especially against the Gold Coast Titans. Genuine captain's option. If you don't have a turbo, you could look at Garrick this week. So can't argue with that. Ronaldo Mulatalo being purchased. Is this chasing last week's points? Because people are buying him on a fucking buy. This is baffling.
Yeah, I'd say it's just people cashing out somebody a little like Ronaldo Mulatalo for Ronaldo Mulatalo and spending that money elsewhere.
It has to be. Isaac Tungo, our boy, 3.4% of people in the top 10% buying him. Obviously, they're linking that Nathan Cleary being back to an increase for Isaac Tungo, which, again, we can't argue with. Massive pod play, 8.2% owned as well. So he will be definitely a pod at the run home. And 398K, he has dropped $300,000 this year. So that just goes to tell you how fucking good he was last year. And he started at a price of $698,000 to start the season. So
yeah, okay.
People are thinking that he can get back to that. And I can't really argue with them if they go right a little bit more and get him some early ball. So fingers crossed they can do that. Talk to us about Connor Watson, mate, because he's definitely a guy that we've seen pop up in chats. And it might have been a chat with us that you were kind of looking at Connor Watson as a bit of a purchase.
I mean, I just have a look at blokes like your Reed Marnies and they're here in the purchase list as well. He is a pod. He's not very well owned. And hooker, second row forward, dual. I think he's got the upside. I think he rotates through the middle. Where the scoring hasn't been at hooker, he's starting at lock, but got that hooker dual. What better than to get a lock in one of the best teams in the comp to play hooker for you? I know you're paying a premium. I never thought I'd be paying $677K for Connor Watson. But if I'm trading Appy to anyone, it could be this bloke.
Mm-hmm. I like it. Don't hate that at all. Hamoli Olakawatu, 9th most purchased this week, $652K. Probably could have got on 2 weeks ago for $150K cheaper, to be fair. And it's... are you still buying him now with the Manly run? Because the draw is good. I understand why people are buying him, and he is 73% owned in the top 10% of teams. So it's kind of like you need to make a decision. Am I anti-potting Hamoli now, or do I need to follow the crowd?
Yeah, Hamoli's not a buy this week. It was last week or never. Get one of those other elite guys. If I didn't have Hamoli, it would be getting in a Keon or Cam Murray for a lot cheaper. I would be anti-potting him if I didn't have him. He scored poorly last week if he didn't go over for that junk try.
Yeah, I don't think I'd get him this week. And the Cam Murray shout just screams. He's like 510K or something stupid. So
yeah,
he could be a really good buy this week if he backs up. He's named on an edge, but I'd say you play through the middle as well, and he'll play 80 minutes. So definitely not a bad shout. Tavita Pangai Jr. is the 10th most bought. 2.7% of people buying him. That takes his ownership up to 4.8%. So nearly 50% of people, 50% of an increase there. we talked about TPJ, so we won't go into that again. But
Yep.
then quickly moving through the next 5, Britton Nickera, Cody Walker, Reed Marnie, David Fafita, Jermaine Asako are the next 5 most purchased players. Now, Jermaine Asako, I don't think I'd be buying him against the Penrith Panthers. I'm not quite sure why people are buying him, especially off the fact that he didn't actually perform that well and looked like he was injured last week too. So, yeah, not 100% sure on that one.
Nah, I wouldn't be going there. And I went there last week, but that was because I wanted him as a VC option last week. So,
yeah, I can't argue with Nickera. I understand, but I mean, they're on a buy. You're not buying a 730K player on a buy, so that doesn't really make much sense. Just get him next week. Cody Walker against the Tigers makes sense. Can't argue with that. If you want an anti-pod Cleary or something like that, that's fine. Reed Marnie also, I kind of really like the Reed Marnie buy. I think maybe people are panicking a little bit, though, on Harry Grant and Appy being out, considering they're probably the 2 most popular hookers. So, but again, Reed Marnie doesn't have any more buyers. The Bulldogs have a nice draw. He's playing a big part. He's scoring pretty well. So can't argue with Reed Marnie. Let's move to the sells. Fletcher Sharp, number 1 on the list. Bit of a no-brainer. Nico Hines, number 2 on the list. No-brainer. Blaze Talangi is number 3. 1,000 people are trading him out in the top 10%. Thoughts on Blaze Talangi? He's got the bye this week for the Eels, but he's been scoring okay.
Yeah, the Eels have been bad. I don't hate getting rid of him. So the Eels have been bad. They need points for Blaze Talangi to score points. Surely you've got bigger issues, but he's also at a really nice price to move to somebody really good. And maybe that's where the Asako or somebody like that comes through. It's looking at not just this week. It's looking at the next 7. So
for sure. Appy Coruscant, 6% of people are selling him. So that brings his ownership back down under 50% in the top 10% of teams, which must be great for you as an owner, because now you're starting to see him creep back down unless people owning him. If you hold on to him,
I don't like copying an AE this week, but I definitely can get around getting rid of him as well. I'm excited about the fact that he's going to be a bit of a pod play now that I've decided to keep him. The old, the knee-jerk reaction, of course, is to trade him. I was doing it. I had Harry Grant in my team at the start of the day. But yeah, just with some of this news around Appy, I'm probably just gonna hold strong.
For sure. Yeah, I think it's the right move. Lachlan Galvin, people are trading. He's the fifth most sold, in the top 10%. Lockie Galvin. I assume they're using that to get to Cleary or someone like that. But
that's fine.
I think it's okay. But again, they're playing Souths who haven't been great. Like Lockie Galvin's shown that he can be a reliable 50 to 60 point scorer, even in losses for the Tigers, which is the majority of the games they play. Like I think Lockie Galvin's a perfectly fine 5'8" too.
Yep.
I wouldn't be upset if I had to play him every week.
Yeah, I get both. Like, obviously, if you're getting Cleary and that's your only way, I just would like you to rethink it and have a look at some of your other players. Like, I'm not trading Dylan Brown or Cody Walker over Galvin. I'm not trading a Matt Burton over Galvin. And if you have all of those type of players, Galvin's got to be the guy to go.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
And if you're in the top 1% like these guys, yeah, you probably do.
Yeah, we're looking at the top 10%, but I assume that probably is pretty close to the top 1% too. In terms of it'd be pretty similar. Ewan Aitken comes in as the 6th most sold, which makes sense. He's out for the season. Dylan Brown, 7th most sold at minus 3.5%, selling him. So that brings him under 80% ownership now. So a lot of people may be going for an antipod and doing a Dylan Brown trade to a Matt Burton. It looks like.
Yep.
Can't argue with that, really, if you have the luxury trades in your pocket. How many trades would you need to be comfortable making a luxury trade like this?
Oh, I don't think it's a good trade. So I wouldn't do it if I had 15.
Yeah, fair. I think you'd need at least 12, 13 as a minimum. You know, we've got 8 rounds left. If you include this round, we've got 8 rounds left of trades to make. So if you've got 16 or more, you can pretty much max trade for the rest of the year. I've got 9 before trades, and it'll be 7 by the time I make my trades this week. So maybe my mindset has always just been a little bit like, I need to save trades. It's normally not a situation I'm in. Usually I hold a fair few at the back end of the year, but this year has been a shit show. Latrell Mitchell, again, people are bailing on Trell. So there's not really been much news around Latrell, but it all comes down to how Souths are playing, doesn't it? And whether they're still a crack at the top 8. Otherwise, they'll probably shut him down, won't they?
Yeah, I think so. I think that you should jump off Latrell if you've got him. I'm doing the same in fantasy this week. Yeah, it's time to go. I don't think we see him suit up again this year.
And not having 920K on the bench. Like, it's just such a, you got $1 million sitting there doing nothing for you for a month, minimum. Could be the end of the season. So definitely not ideal. And I'd say if they lose to the Tigers this week, you can pretty much call the South's season over, or pretty close to it. So yeah, I'd say move on Latrell. Too much cash to be sitting on. Jeremy Marshall-King is people are moving him on now because they're probably worked out who the best option is for the run home. So understand that. And Zach Lomax is the 10th most sold. People are moving on him as well. The Dragons draw actually looks fucking putrid. So I understand why people are doing it. If we bring it up on the screen, they've got Penrith into Melbourne around 21-22. So yeah, not great. Bulldogs Gold Coast in the middle. Bulldogs is a tough matchup now, so ignore the green. And they've also got the Sharks at the back end of the year, who defensively have been relatively good. So yeah, not a very easy.
Two good matchups, 3 bads, and a mid one. So
pretty much, yep. So you can bail on Zach Lomax, considering he's not playing for you this week either. And then the next 5, Sam Walker. I get it if you go into Cleary, that's fine. The one that doesn't make sense to me: why have you hold Joey Manu, who is the 12th most sold this week, for 2
only
weeks
to trade him this week?
He's back. He's going to be back next week. So it makes, if you, I think there was a question in the chat here earlier. I'll try and find it. If he was asking whether thanks Ian Johnson, love that, love your work, mate, appreciate that. If you still got Joey Manu, just hold now. He's back next week. So yeah, absolutely could be a fantastic pod play as well. Only 17% owned in the top 10% now. There's a genuine pod.
Yeah, so, look, you've just got to keep him. I'm trying to work out a way to get him back.
Yeah, me too. I just didn't plan the trade, but I might just go balls to the wall and just fucking run with like 2 or 3 trades left for the year. So yeah, who cares? Scotty Drinkwater, people are trading him out. I get it as well. That's fine. And Isaiah Yeo is one that doesn't really make sense to me because he's at 614K. I'd consider that a discount for Isaiah Yeo. The only reason you trade him is if you think that he's going to sit a few games in the back end of the year and Penrith are going to rest their players.
And he might, but you probably should have known that.
Yeah. Yep. That's fair. Now, mate, we've got a new little segment, and I didn't make a stinger, but we'll use the watch list stinger. We're going to go and look at some pod watch.
We're going to go pod hunting.
Let's go pod hunting.
I'm watching you, Wazowski. Always watching.
All right. You can kick things off, mate. Who's your pod? So we've set the parameters at sub 10% owned in the top % of teams. Who's the guy that you're looking at this week?
Cameron Murray.
Oh, yeah. Like it.
3.8% owned, 520K, has all the upside in the world. You're bringing him in with a break even of 70 because even then he's not on people's radars. Like, he's not even on people's radars because he's going to go up in a heap of cash and people are going to be bringing him in this week. He has been riddled with injury. The Rabbitohs have been bad, but I believe it has given you the golden opportunity to get a great player at a great price at an absolute pod.
I like that. We talked about him last week as a guy that's dropped so much cash that you'd just be silly not to look at him. What's the ownership again?
3.8%.
Yeah, that's huge. For a guy like Cam Murray, who can easily be a 700K player as a minimum, that's kind of what you'd expect in terms of output for him for the run home. So you're getting him at a 200K discount. Pull the trigger. If you want to get spicy at 2RF, which I might do. I might fade Gus Crichton completely, which I don't love, but I don't know whether I have the cash to get him back in now. So yeah, that could be a play for me. Isaiah Yeo's another guy I'm looking at 2RF maybe, but we'll see how we go. I'm a little bit worried he gets rested in the final round.
He's a trade out man.
Yeah, apparently I'm missing a trick. My pod, and you don't like it, so I kind of like it even more now that you don't like it. And there have been some people mentioning him in the chat. If we had a few minutes, I'd sit around and just let people guess, but I won't make people wait. It's Jack Whiten. And with the 5'8" centre wing duel, you're definitely not getting him at 5'8". He's 477K. He's coming off back-to-back 88s and against bad teams. But again, he plays the Tigers this week. The one I think benefit, and the reason I'm looking at Jack Whiten as the pod of the week at 2.7% 2.9% ownership. Thanks, Rowan. That's fine. And that's fine.
This is why they're pods, can I say?
Hold on, 100%. The reason why is because if with Latrell out of the team, it looks like he's getting the ball in his hands a little bit more, and it looks like he's finally starting to form some form of combination on that left edge with Alex Johnston. Now, do I want to pick Alex Johnston as my pod of the week? No, not really, because he can get you 10. But Jack Whiten, I don't see him going real low. He's got a minus 15 break even as well. So if you've got trades up your sleeve, you can probably move him on in a few weeks. But Souths have some pretty favourable matchups coming home as well. They've got some shit matchups, which you just sit him on if you're picking him at centre.
Yeah.
But I don't hate it. So, and the beauty of this is it is a pod, and he's a pod for a reason because he's been pretty ordinary for the most part. But we'll track it. We'll track these and we'll see how we go. And
Brother,
yeah. Actually, do I have the stinger? I think I do.
Brother, what's that?
Yeah. And that's fair. I'll cop that. And for the most part, most of my pods for the run home will be that kind of response. Haggy in the chat, Isaac Tungo, 5% owned. Yep. We probably talked about him a little bit too much early on. So we wanted to just steer away from the obvious pick, but we do like Isaac Tungo.
We did have a couple highly commendeds there in the background that we spoke about before the show. My other one was Connor Watson, much the same as Isaac Tungo. He's actually in the most brought list. So, yeah, he's a pod right now, but he's probably not going to be by the end of the week. But at 677K, yeah, a bloke going through the middle like that. And, yeah, Tungo next to Cleary. Makes sense. Hits differently.
Yeah, for sure. All right, that's Pod Watch done. Let's move into captains and questions.
Are you ready, kids?
The good thing is we don't have to worry about rain too much this week. It's only the Storm game against the Roosters in Melbourne that's predicted to get up to 3 mil, but again, 3 mil's fuck all, so you don't have to worry about that too much just yet. But VC Loop, what are your thoughts, mate? Cody Walker against the Tigers probably makes sense if you're an owner.
Yeah, look, I do really like it. I just think that he might score 90. And in a week where a lot of us have a free loop, which is fine. I'm just thinking I'm going to chase someone that might get 150 or something like that. And I think, maybe one of these other blokes that you're going to mention next could do that.
Well, you can take us into it, mate.
Oh, like Reece Walsh versus the Knights. The Broncos are going to be angry. Reece Walsh is going to be Reece Walsh. Look, he could also score a 30, but he could score 180, and that's probably why he's a really good VC loop option because there's absolutely no risk there.
Yeah. 180 I don't think is within his capabilities Supercoach-wise. I just feel like he ducks in and out of games too much. Like he scores all of his points in clumps. So I just don't know whether he's got 180 in him. Like a turbo, you've got to be doing shit for 80 minutes to score that kind of score. Whereas, Walsh probably has a 120 to 130 in him, which is fine for VC, especially if you've got barely any players this week and you've copping a few on the buy and stuff. So, and I think against the Knights as well, he could score well. And I do like buying into the Broncos for the run home. We spoke about it at the start, but you guys have so much to play for. I don't see you rolling over and having a shit end to the season. I think there's way too much on the line after being grand finalists last year to finish outside the 8. I don't think that can happen.
Yeah, I'm not going to do it. So then they can only let me down once. So
that's fair. I saw them let you down at the grand final at the Gold Coast Casino. So it didn't look fun.
Absolute scenes. James Tedesco versus the Storm. Look, not a great matchup versus the Storm, but I can't bet against James Tedesco at the moment. He's going to be my VC.
He's so good. If you're going to try and maybe VC late, if you've got a free loop or something, you can probably get away with doing that. But Teddy is pretty much fixture proof for the most part. Like if you want to get yourself a pretty much guaranteed 60 as a floor, Teddy's your man. And Storm haven't been defensively amazing. They haven't been absolute defensive, clinics as they are in previous seasons. So
they let in points to the Tigers the other week.
They did. We scored 28 against them 2 weeks ago.
Wild. Absolute scenes.
So, Teddy against the Storm, can't argue. Now, we're talking captains here, but there is every argument that you could VC Nathan Cleary against the Dolphins. Do you have the balls to straight captain him, though, after VCing a Tedesco on Saturday night?
Fuck, you've seen my Supercoach team.
Talk us into it then. I mean, it's pretty obvious, but convince me.
Bringing in the best halfback in the game. I don't think where they're sitting at the I don't think where they're sitting they would rush him back or not. They don't need to rush him back. So he's going to be 100%. Is he going to be a little rusty? Yeah, but what's his floor? Like 60? I did that with Fafita last week. So look, we'll never back against Cleary. It's a pod. I'm actually fully expecting probably to loop Tedesco, to be completely honest. But hey, Nathan Cleary, captain. Tedesco into Nathan Cleary. Has anything sounded better? Like all those people playing with, VC, Cody Walker. Like how many times have you looked Cody Walker when you've had Nathan Clearys and Tedescos and blokes like that in your team? Never.
No, not a chance. Yeah. I'm on board with that. I think that was the safest and probably the best option this week is Tedesco into either Cleary or this last guy we'll talk about, Tom Trbojevic against the Titans. That is another, amazing matchup.
You can't go Tedesco into Turbo.
No, you can't go Teddy into Turbo, but you can probably do Cody Walker into Turbo or something like that. So, and you're right. I can't remember who, somebody in the chat, Fresh Prince was saying that it takes Turbo out if you do VC Tedesco or Walsh or whatever. So that's the hard part about having so many good fullback options as your captains every week. If you want to captain Turbo, you're probably going to need to look at a Cleary VC if you can make that work so late in the round. Penrith play, Sunday, 2 p.m? So
yeah. And you're going to have blokes on a bye. Like surely you have Mulitalos and Eros and Dillbags
And again, most of us have Bulldogs players as well who are playing in the final game. So if you've got a Bulldogs player and you're starting 17, then you'll be able to flip him out and get a VC on. So that's probably my plan, if I'm completely honest. I'll be doing Nathan Cleary VC into Turbo captain. But I think Turbo as the captain is the best captaincy option this week against the Gold Coast Titans. Titans concede a bucket of points to fullbacks nearly every single week. And Turbo after last week looked fantastic. Passed the eye test for me, which is what we spoke about the week before. Like just not 100% sure that he looked good at center, and I'm glad he's at fullback now because he just had so much more space and he looked a different player.
Yep.
And we talked about him being a buyer, so that kind of makes sense, I guess. So that's captains, mate. We're not going to do a bet this week because we haven't spoken to Josh, and we'll bring that segment back when we've got a little bit more time up our hands at the back end of the year. But we have some questions to answer.
I'm out.
All right, catch you, Matty. Have fun at ball. I'll answer these questions.
I've got basketball. And if I did have a bet, it was Broncos -4.5. Bye.
Oh, spicy. All right, see you, mate.
It's question time. Let's answer your questions for the week ahead.
All right, bear with me. And also, do you like my piano in the background? Mind you, it is a green screen. It's not my house, just so everyone watching doesn't think that I'm fucking loaded, because I am not. But I'll pretend that I own a piano. To kick things off, Reese, is Burbo to Whiten, Sharp to Turbo, and Brayley to Starling worth a boost? I mean, Starling? No. Burbo to Whiten, I get it. But, Burbo off the bench this week kind of sucks. So I understand the move. And we talked about Whiten being a super pod. So, I mean, if you like Whiten, sure. Sharp to Turbo is definitely a play. And I'm assuming you need to do Brayley to Starling to free up cash to make that work. And if that's the case, sure, that's fine. If it allows you to get Turbo in this week, who seems like probably one of the picks of the round, then I'm fine with that. So I don't mind it. I just don't love Brayley to Starling. I'm just thinking the cheap hookers. Have we got Simpkin there? Maybe that could be an option over Starling. If you can make that cash work, maybe that works better. Tom Delves is asking, at this point, should I trade Joey Manu or just wait out the rest of his injury? This is the comment that I was looking for when we were talking about Manu being in the top 10 most sold. Definitely hold Joey Manu at this point. Do not trade him out. He could be back as early as next week. The word was he was going to miss 3 to 4 weeks. So there is every chance we could see him next week for the Roosters, if not round 22. And I think he will be a awesome pod at the back end of the year. So definitely, if you held him this long, hold on a little bit longer. Jamie Camilleri, thoughts on trade plans? Levi, Hopewadi, Mitchell and Hines out. Simpkin, Turbo and Burton in. Yep, I like it. That's handy. I mean, Simpkin looks pretty decent as a bit of a downgrade at hooker if you do need to free up that cash. Turbo's Turbo. And Burton could be, honestly, a fantastic little kind of half 5'8" dual pod. The Bulldogs draw we spoke about at the start of the show is fantastic. So I'd kind of like Burton. If I wasn't going with Cleary, I'd probably look at Jerome Hughes and Matt Burton combo at halfback, to be honest, to run home. So, yeah, I like it. Jake, 994, what to do with Appy this week? Have Grant as my other hooker. Is it worth nothing and running with Grant to the end? Trade to Starling or just hold him? Look, I don't know whether you need Grant and Appy. Personally, I think we've said this a lot this year. You don't need two gun hookers. I think it's just a waste of money being in a position that just lacks severe upside. So if you can free up that cash, depending on how many trades you have as well, Jake, like if you've got 12, 13 plus trades, then you could probably nuff or go down to Starling if you like Starling, or go down to Simpkin, who I'd probably prefer over Starling. You can free up that cash and then you can maybe get a few of these guys in that you wouldn't be able to afford otherwise. So I'd probably much prefer just running with Grant. We know that Grant's going to be fine for the run home. He's probably good enough, even if he gets an early shower every now and again for the Storm on the run home, he's probably good enough to still average more than what you would consider Appy and those guys to get. Jono Davis, boys, is Talangi to Karaz a play this week? I have to either do that or go Appy to another hooker. Look, I'd probably do Talangi to Karaz. I mean, Talangi's on the bye this week. Karaz has definitely got a really nice draw. We talked about the Bulldogs. So, yeah, I like that. That's not a bad play. I think Karaz is definitely going to be maybe a top 5, top 6 centre wing to finish the year as well. So, yeah, definitely don't mind that at all. Pick 2 out of Azarko, Fainu, I'm assuming Samuela Fainu, and Plath for the last 2 reserves. Azarko against the Panthers, it's a no from me, dog. So it's going to be Fainu and Plath, I think. Plath will just get the base out of hooker. Azarko, I think, won't be scoring too many tries coming up against Brian To'o, who I expect, by the way, he's named in the extended bench. I expect him to play this week. So Azarko scoring tries on Brian To'o's wing, I do not think that will happen. So sit Azarko and play Fainu and Plath. Bryce, 485 to the Cowboys. Origin players back up. It all depends on tomorrow night, mate, to be honest. I think that there's every chance that they do. I mean, there was talk around town last Origin when Val Holmes got beaten up that he wouldn't play, and he did, which was good. They've had a bit of a rest as well. I mean, they didn't play round 19. Obviously, Val didn't anyway, so it didn't really matter. But I think that the Cowboys players should be fresh enough, and they also have enough to play for at this time of the year. So I don't know whether these guys that are kind of in that kind of 5th, 6th to 10th spot are going to be able to afford to rest too many of their players on the run home. They need every win they can get, just with how tight the competition is from like 4th through to 10th. So anybody in those positions, I think I would say they'd play. Joshua Kempfuis, I hope I pronounced that right. Probably butchered it. Sorry, mate. Keep Edwards or move to Turbo. 11 trades left. Look, probably move to Turbo. I think we've been pretty honest about the fact that there's every chance that Edwards takes a little bit of a dip in scoring now that he won't have the goal kicking with Nathan Cleary back in the team. He probably won't be playing much first receiver, which Edwards did a lot when Cleary was out of the team. He played on that right side as that first receiver and got a lot of kind of try assists and a lot more involvement in attack with the ball in his hands. So I think with Nathan Cleary back, Edwards takes a bit of a dip. I don't think it's much, but I think if you want to really attack the draw, attack the schedule, Turbo's a great option. Ian Johnson, I'm hoping everyone jumps on Cleary while I jump on DCE, as he always has a good end to the year. What are your thoughts? I can't argue with that. I like DCE. He was definitely a guy. If Cleary wasn't named this week, there is every chance I might have taken a punt on Daly Sherry Evans for the run home. He's got a 15 break even. He's only 600K as well, so he's like 200K cheaper than Cleary. He's got the Titans this week, who notoriously he doesn't score amazingly against, but DCE can go on runs. And he's a guy who scored 128 against the Panthers this year, which most players can't do. So if I did say at the start of the questions that if I didn't have Cleary, I'd probably get Burton. But I'll tell you what, DCE is a very, very close third as a player I'd buy, just due to the fact that Manly have a pretty favourable run home. Ian Johnson also, is there a way that we can do a meetup with you guys at the last weekend of the season, do a catch-up? Would be good to talk SC at a function. I mean, I can talk Supercoach anywhere. So maybe what we can do is we can potentially do a we pick a game in the final round or something and we all try and go. I know it's different and it's tough with people interstate, and we know that everybody that watches is all over Australia. So maybe we'll do a little bit of an insight meetup or something in round 27 if we can make it happen. I know that Matty's got a kid on the way and not far away, to be honest. So he's going to be pretty tied up. But we'll see what we can do and we can make it happen. Adam88, thoughts on trades this week, guys? Dillbags to Burton. I like it. Sharp to Walsh. Yep, absolutely. Should leave me with enough to go Hines to Cleary next week. And look, we spoke about waiting on Cleary for a week, and I completely understand why you do that. You could get him $100K cheaper. So, yeah, that's fine with me, Adam. I like it. Sam Caulfield, Trindle, talk to me, boys. What do we reckon as a pod? Look, I wish I could say I don't want to consider him, but honestly, like with how dominant he looked with the ball in his hands at his price, like I really don't mind it, especially with the Sharks draw for the run home. They've got the Cowboys, they've got Souths, they've got Gold Coast, Knights, Dragons, Warriors, and Manly. Like that is probably what you consider 7 very nice matchups for the Sharks. Now, Trindle also has the goal kicking. Trindle also will not let anybody else touch the fucking ball for the Sharks. So basically, Daniel Atkinson can basically consider himself mute on the right edge because he won't be doing much with it. Trindle also floats both sides of the ruck. I really hate saying it because I really don't like Trindle as a player, but he's just too impactful to ignore. And just with the goal kicking makes him super relevant. So if you want to take on a super pod and you want to fade Nathan Cleary, which I don't think I would advise anybody to do, take on Trindle. It's very, very left field, but it could pay off massively with that draw. Tom Delves, please tell me if I should keep Manu. Yep, already answered that one. Sorry, I missed it earlier. FC Sports, who is the best 2 fullbacks to have in your team? I would probably say Tedesco, number 1, for the run home, just with the Roosters and how good their draw is. Number 2, if you ask me from round 23, it's Ponga. But if you ask me from right now, it's probably Turbo. So, if you can go if you've got enough trades to go Turbo now to Ponga in round 23 and hold Teddy as your second fullback, that's probably the best scenario for me personally. Fresh Prince, who has been a player that surpassed your expectations this year? For me, it was Wishart. I see him as a Cooper Johns potential, but ultimately very mid-low. Wishart's been decent this year. Wishart's been fantastic. I really wish that I got on him before his price went up. He's been awesome. I guess it comes down to, did you buy him after Munster went down the second time, or did you take a punt the first time? Because he made a fair bit of cash before Munster got injured the second time. So you had to get a bit of luck there with Wishart. One guy that's exceeded my expectations, and I'll put my hand up and say that I got it wrong on him, is Jaden Campbell. Jaden Campbell has always been like 50 to 55 and a scorer in Supercoach, and missing him about 4 weeks ago has really hurt me because his 3-round average is like 113. He's been fantastic. He's one player that I've definitely got wrong, and a player that I really wish that I bought about 3 to 4 weeks ago. Maybe stubborn me now has kind of said, nah, you said no, don't get him now. And that probably hurt me a little bit last week as well. And the last question from Arson Dragon, long-time follower and friend of the podcast, Burbo to Whiten, is it a bit of a waste of a trade with 8 left? I'd say it's a waste of a trade if you got 8 left. We've still got 8 rounds left. So for me, I don't think it makes sense with that little amount of trades left to get a guy like Whiten in who, yeah, he could be great, but he could also be pretty ordinary and just go back to mid-scoring for the most part. So, yeah, Burbo to Whiten seems a bit sideways and a bit of a waste of a trade with that many trades left, unfortunately. Guys, I'm sorry doing this solo. I haven't been able to keep up with all of the questions in the live chat and all of the chat. But West Tigers and Para round 27 at Campbelltown could be the meetup because that's like 10 minutes from my house. So yeah, I'm more than happy to meet up at Campbelltown Stadium if people live out that way, or if you live in Sydney and want to travel out to Campbelltown. It's a nice little rural ground out in Campbelltown, and we can sit on the hill and have a few beers. So that sounds like good fun. Guys, that'll pretty much do us. That'll wrap us up. I know a bit shorter than we normally did, but still an hour 23. Hopefully you guys have got enough out of it to make your changes this week. We'll do a Q&A pod, of course, as we always do for our Insight Unlimited members, and you can become a member for only $20. It'll get you the NBL and the BBL seasons as well as the rest of the NRL and the AFL seasons. So, hit me up if you have any interest in that. But otherwise, guys, Thanks for watching. Appreciate all the love in the chat, as always. Good luck this week. Hopefully plenty of green arrows, as always. We'll see you on Sunday for the weekly wrap-up. Good luck.